Hello everyone. Welcome to the Everyday Mind. Today we are going somewhere that exists in the space between the world you know and the world you almost remember. We are going to Kyoto, but not the Kyoto of crowds and cameras and afternoon heat. We are going before all of that. We are going at the hour when the city has not yet decided to be a city, the hour when the stone steps are still wet from the night, when the incense from yesterday has not fully left the air, and when the light, if you can call it light, is more of a suggestion than a fact. Fushimi Inari Taisha, the shrine of 10,000 gates. You may have seen photographs of this place, the long corridor of Vermilion Torii, stacked so closely together that walking through them feels like passing through something, not just a path, but a threshold, a decision. But photographs are taken in the middle of the day, when the tourists are already there and the magic has politely stepped aside. We are not going at midday. We are going now, before the first train, before the first footstep that isn't yours. One small thing before we go. If you find yourself coming back to this channel, subscribe, so the next journey is always waiting for you. And if you feel like it, leave a comment and tell us where you are listening from tonight. A bedroom in London, a balcony in Seoul, a couch somewhere in the middle of a city that hasn't gone quiet yet. We like knowing where you are because it reminds us that stillness travels. Now, relax and enjoy, and let us begin our journey together. Chapter 1. The First Gate. The train station is behind you now. You don't remember the ride, or perhaps you do in fragments. The hum of the carriage, the dark window reflecting your own face back at you, a few other passengers, silent, each one a small island. But that is already fading. What you notice now is the air. It is cool in the way that only early morning air can be. Not the cold of winter, which presses against you, but the cool of a world that has been breathing quietly all night and hasn't yet been disturbed. You breathe it in, and it carries something with it. Stone, wet earth, something green and slow and old. And beneath all of that, just barely, the thread of incense, not sharp, not fresh, but like the memory of smoke that has soaked itself into the wood and the stone and the moss over decades, maybe centuries, until the smell is no longer something that was burned, but something that simply is. You are standing at the base of the approach. The path ahead is stone, wide, flat slabs laid by hands long gone, worn smooth at the center where millions of feet have passed. On either side, stone lanterns rise at irregular intervals, their small flames still burning. It is not yet light enough that they seem unnecessary. They are doing their work, not illuminating exactly, but marking, saying, "Here, this way, come." Between the lanterns, the ground is thick with moss. Not the thin, patchy moss of somewhere that hasn't been cleaned. This is moss that has been allowed, encouraged even, to grow over everything it chooses. It covers the bases of the lanterns. It spreads across the tops of the low stone walls. It finds the cracks between the paving stones and fills them with something soft and living. In the low light, it is not quite green. It is closer to the color of deep water, of something that exists in the part of the spectrum that eyes register, but don't have a word for. You take your first step onto the path, and the sound your foot makes is softer than you expected. Ahead, the first Torii gate stands. You have seen photographs, but you were not prepared for the scale. Or perhaps scale is not the right word. You are not prepared for the presence. The gate is Vermilion, the specific red-orange of lacquered wood that has been repainted so many times, the color has become permanent, structural, as if the wood is red all the way through. It rises above you, its crossbeams extending past the posts on either side, and you pass beneath it without stopping, because somehow you understand that this is what you do. You pass beneath it, and something, very small, very quiet, shifts. The path narrows slightly as you move forward. On the right, a stone basin sits at the edge of the path, filled with water so still it might as well be glass. A thin bamboo pipe releases a single thread of water into it. Not a trickle, not a stream, just the thinnest possible line of water, falling in silence, landing without a sound. You stop and watch it for a moment. The surface of the basin barely registers the impact. A ring expands outward, reaches the stone edge, and disappears. You continue. The incense is stronger now. Somewhere ahead, not visible yet but present, there is a lighted brazier, and the smoke from it moves in a slow, directionless way, as if it is exploring. You walk through a thin ribbon of it and feel it pass across your face, not unpleasant, but distinct. Sandalwood, perhaps, and something underneath it that you cannot name. Something that has no equivalent in the world you come from. To your left, partially hidden by a low stone wall draped in moss, a woman is sweeping. She is older, dressed in simple dark clothing, and she moves the bamboo broom across the stone in long, even strokes. The sound of it is rhythmic, soft, like something breathing. She does not look up as you pass. She does not seem to notice you, or perhaps she has noticed you and has simply decided that noticing is not required. She has been here before you arrived, and she will be here after you have gone, and the sweeping will continue regardless. Some historians suggest that the early morning silence of a Shinto shrine is not emptiness. It is a form of preparation, a clearing, the way a musician will sit quietly before they begin to play, not because they have nothing to say, but because they are making room for what is about to happen. You think about this as you walk. The path begins to rise, not steeply, but noticeably. Your body adjusts, your pace slows slightly, and the result is that you begin to pay more attention to what is close to you rather than what is ahead. The moss on either side is remarkable in its stillness. Nothing moves. There is no wind yet. The air is held, suspended, as if the morning is keeping its breath. A bird calls somewhere in the cedars above, once, twice, and then silence. Another gate appears, and another. They come in clusters now, close enough that the light between them is filtered, changed. The way light changes when it passes through water. You are inside something, not trapped. Nothing about this feels like enclosure, more like held, like being inside something that has decided to be gentle with you. You run your hand along the post of one of the gates as you pass. The lacquer is cool, smooth, and then, beneath your fingertips, the faintest texture, not roughness, but depth, the way old paint has layers you can feel without seeing. This gate has been standing here since before you were born, since before your parents were born. It has been painted and repainted and has watched the light change 10,000 mornings, and it does not find any of this remarkable. It simply stands. You keep walking. The stone beneath your feet is darker now, where the shade of the cedars has kept it damp through the night. You step carefully, not because you are afraid of falling, but because there is something that feels right about being careful here, about placing your feet deliberately, about not rushing. Ahead, the path curves gently to the left, and as it does, the first real light of morning finds its way through the trees. It is not yellow, this light, not the warm gold that photographs promise. Not yet. It is pale, almost colorless, and it falls in long, thin lines between the tree trunks like something left behind by a departing night. It moves slightly. The trees breathe, the light shifts, and the effect is of something living at a scale you are not accustomed to noticing. You stop. You don't plan to. You simply stop and stand in the path and breathe. The smoke from the brazier has followed you here, or perhaps it was already here, waiting. The sound of the bamboo broom has faded completely. The bird does not call again. There is only the quiet and the light and the path ahead, rising gently through the gates. You are not in a hurry. You don't remember what you were in a hurry about back there before. The train, the morning, the things that needed to be done. They exist somewhere, but they are very far away, and the distance between you and them feels not permanent, but sufficient. Sufficient for now, sufficient for this. You take a breath. The incense is there again. The moss is there on either side, dark green and perfectly still. And above you, the gates continue, vermilion against the pale morning sky, one after another, like a sentence that has no need to end. You walk forward. Chapter 2. Moss and Memory. The path has been climbing for some time now, not steeply. Nothing about this place asks anything of you that feels like effort, but the incline is steady, and your body has found its rhythm, the slow and even rhythm of someone who is walking, not to arrive somewhere, but simply to continue. Your breath moves in and out without your attention. Your feet find the stone without your guidance. Something in you has decided, quietly and without announcement, to let go of the work of moving and simply move. The Torii gates are closer together here. In the lower sections of the path, there was space between them, room for the morning light to fall in full between one gate and the next. But as you have climbed, they have gathered. They stand now with only a step or two between their posts, and the effect is of a tunnel that is not quite a tunnel. The sky above is still visible, thin strips of pale grey-blue between the crossbeams, but the world on either side has been replaced by the deep red of lacquered wood. You are inside the gates now, not merely among them. The light here is different. It is the color of something filtered and changed, not darker, but transformed. The red of the wood casts a warmth that has nothing to do with the sun, which has not yet fully risen. Walking through it feels like walking through a room that has been lit specifically for you, though you know that is not the case, that this light has been falling on this path in exactly this way for longer than you have been alive. You notice now the Ima boards. They hang along the edges of the path at intervals, small wooden plaques, votive offerings, each one written on by someone who came here with something they needed to say to the unseen world. Prayers mostly, wishes, the ordinary yearnings of people who stood exactly where you are standing and felt perhaps exactly what you are feeling, that this place requires something of you, though you cannot say what, that it is listening, though you cannot say how. But what you notice, and you are not sure when you first noticed it, is the foxes, Every Ima board has one, a fox painted or carved in the simple style of folk art, small, precise, with the particular stillness of something drawn from memory rather than life. White foxes mostly, though some are the color of old ink. Each one sits in the same posture, body forward, tail curled, ears raised, alert but not watchful, present but not demanding. What you notice, and this takes a moment to fully register, the way certain things take a moment, is that they are all looking in the same direction, not toward the path, not toward the shrine below where you began. Every fox on every board is oriented in exactly the same way, facing something that is further up the mountain, further in, further along the path you are walking. You look from one to the next, moving slowly along the row of hanging ima, and the consistency of it is remarkable. It is not the result of a template or a convention. The boards are clearly drawn by different hands, some practiced, some childlike, some somewhere in between, and yet every fox has been placed facing the same direction. You stand there for a moment, looking at them. The incense reaches you again. It is thicker here than it was below. Not overwhelming, not unpleasant, but noticeably present. You look around for the source. There is no brazier visible, no lighted cone of incense at the base of a nearby statue, no smoldering bundle of cedar. The smoke, if there is smoke, is invisible. There is only the smell, sandalwood, and something older, something that has no name in any shop you have ever entered, moving through the air in the slow, purposeful way of something that belongs here. No one has lit anything, or perhaps someone did earlier, before you arrived, and the smell has simply stayed. That is possible, plausible. You hold the thought and then let it go, because you find that you are not particularly interested in explanations this morning. Explanations belong to a different time of day. They belong to the afternoon, to the fluorescent light of ordinary hours. Here, in this corridor of red gates, and watching foxes and sourceless incense, explanation feels like the wrong tool, like trying to hold water with your hands. You walk on. The moss is extraordinary up here. You noticed it below, the way it covered the lantern bases, the way it filled the spaces between the stones. But here it has expanded its ambitions. It grows on everything. The stone retaining walls on either side of the path are entirely consumed by it, their original surface invisible beneath layers of green so dense, and even it looks almost soft, almost fabricated. The roots of the cedar trees are wrapped in it. Even the lower portions of some of the Torii posts, where the lacquer has worn thin over decades, show the moss beginning its slow, patient work. You step slightly off the path to look more closely at the wall beside you. Up close, the moss is not one thing. It is many things. Dozens of different varieties growing in layers and communities, some of it fine as hair, some of it thick and cushioned, some of it tipped with the faintest suggestion of color, a deep green that is almost blue. You bring your face close to it and you can smell it. Cool and mineral and alive, like the inside of a stone that has been keeping its own slow time. Some people believe that moss does not grow where there is disturbance, that it requires above all else stillness, years and decades of stillness, surfaces that have not been moved or changed, air that has not been agitated. Looking at the walls of this path, so completely covered, so thoroughly inhabited, you understand this to be a kind of record, a measurement, Every inch of green is an inch of time that was allowed to pass undisturbed. You straighten up and return to the path. Ahead, a small stone figure stands at the edge of the route, a fox statue, one of hundreds you will encounter on this mountain, each one slightly different. This one is small, barely knee-height, and it holds something in its mouth, a scroll perhaps or a key. The details are worn soft by weather and time, and you cannot be certain. But the expression, if a stone animal can have an expression, is not fierce. It is settled, composed, like something that has been sitting here long enough to no longer wonder why. A leaf falls from somewhere above. You watch it. It is a small leaf, dry and curved at the edges, spinning slowly as it descends. And then, for just a moment so brief you are not certain it happened, it pauses. Not drifts, not slows, pauses, as if it has forgotten, momentarily, what leaves are supposed to do, and then it resumes its falling, touches the moss beside the path, and is still. You look up into the canopy. The trees are motionless. There is no wind. You continue. Around a long, gentle curve in the path, a figure sits at a low wooden table set against the stone wall. A man, older or perhaps ageless in the way that some people in some places seem ageless, with a simple cloth spread before him and a ceramic pot from which steam rises in a single, unhurried thread. He has set out a small cup on the table's edge. He does not look up as you approach. He does not gesture, does not speak, does not indicate in any way that he is expecting you. But the cup is there. You slow and stop and look at it. The steam from the pot moves across the table towards you, and with it comes the smell of something warm, roasted grain perhaps, or something close to it, something simple and grounding after the incense and the cedar and the cool mineral air of the moss. You do not take the cup, but you stand near it for a moment, and the warmth of it reaches you, and that is enough. When you look back at the man, he has already turned his attention to something else, or perhaps to nothing at all. His hands are still. His face is calm. He has been here before dawn, and he will be here after the first tourists arrive, and what he is doing exactly is unclear, but whatever it is, he is doing it with complete attention and complete ease. And watching him, you feel something in your own body release, a tightening you had not noticed until it is gone. The bells reach you from somewhere above, faint, irregular, not a pattern, but a series of single notes, each one complete in itself, each one hanging in the air for longer than seems physically possible before fading. You cannot tell if they are being rung by someone or if they are responding to a wind you cannot feel. Perhaps it does not matter. The gates close around you again as you walk, red and shadow, and the smell of old wood and new moss, and somewhere ahead, further up, further in, the mountain waiting. Chapter 3. The Fox Spirit's Walk. You are not sure exactly when it begins. That is the nature of it. There is no moment you can point to, no clear threshold you cross. There is only the gradual awareness that something has changed, the way you sometimes become aware of silence only after it has already been present for some time. The gates are the same. The moss is the same. The path beneath your feet is the same worn stone, the same careful slope, the same steady invitation upward. And yet, you slow your pace without deciding to. The Ima boards are still hanging where they were. You can see them ahead, another cluster of them along the left side of the path, swaying almost imperceptibly in an air that you would not describe as wind. You watch them as you approach, the small painted foxes, each one facing the same direction, each one in the same composed, forward-looking posture, and then the nearest one is empty, not fallen, not removed. The board is still there, still hanging from its cord, still bearing the handwritten prayer in faded ink beneath the painted area. But the space where the fox was, the careful strokes of white paint that formed a small, alert body, is simply gone. Not scratched away, not faded. Gone, the way a reflection goes when you step away from the mirror. You look at the next board, empty, and the next. You move down the row slowly, and every board tells the same story. The prayers are still there, the ink, the wood, the chords, all of it unchanged. But every fox that was painted on every board has vacated its small wooden world and left behind only the faint impression of where it once was, the way a body leaves a depression in grass after it has risen and walked away. You stand in the middle of the path and breathe. You are not afraid. You notice this with some interest, that your body, which knows fear well, which has its own vocabulary of alarm and retreat, is doing none of those things. Your heart is not fast. Your hands are still. Whatever this is, your body has decided it is not a threat. Your body has decided, in fact, that it is something else entirely, something closer to recognition. And then you see the first one. It is at the edge of the path, just at the periphery of your vision, and when you turn to look directly at it, it is there, fully there, not translucent, not glowing, not any of the things that stories have trained you to expect. It is a fox, white, small, with a tail that curves upward and then drops in a slow arc. It is standing on the stone at the base of a Torii post, and it is looking up the path, the same direction all the painted foxes looked, the same direction the stone fox held at the base of the wall. It does not look at you. This is the thing that stays with you, not the fact of it, but the manner of it. It does not look at you, and this feels not like avoidance, but like courtesy, like the understanding that being looked at directly and suddenly, in a place where you are not expecting it, can be startling. And so it simply does not. It faces the path ahead, and its ears move, once slightly, and then it steps forward, slowly, without urgency. You follow. You are not sure you decide to follow. It is more that the path goes in the same direction, and so following and walking are the same thing. You keep your pace. You do not try to close the distance between you, and the fox does not attempt to open it. You are simply walking in the same direction at the same time, with a natural interval between you that feels considered. Another fox appears on the right, then another ahead, stepping out from behind the base of a gate post with the calm of something that has done this before. They are all the same color, white that is not quite white, more the white of morning cloud, of paper held to sunlight, and they are all oriented the same way, ahead, up, further in. They do not interact with each other, do not look at each other, but they are clearly part of the same movement, the same quiet procession. You are walking among them now. The incense is present again, more present than it has been since the beginning, rich and slow and everywhere. And the light between the gates has changed in a way you cannot account for. It is warmer, not brighter, not the arrival of full morning sun, but warmer, as if the red of the lacquered wood has begun to give off its own small heat, its own quiet light. The moss on the walls seems, in this light, to be a deeper color than before, almost luminous, in the understated way of things that generate light from within rather than reflecting it from outside. Some traditions hold that a fox spirit does not choose to be seen. It simply allows itself to be, for reasons that belong entirely to the fox. Not as a gift, not as a warning, but as a kind of weather, a condition of the air, something that is present the way a certain quality of light is present, and that passes when it passes, and means what it means in the way that all rare things mean what they mean, incompletely, beautifully, without explanation. You think about this as you walk. The procession, you have started thinking of it as a procession, though nothing about it is formal, has grown. There are perhaps a dozen foxes now, walking at different distances from you, spread across the width of the path and along its edges. The smallest ones move near the base of the gateposts. The larger ones, if larger is the right word, as none of them are large, walk more toward the center, though still ahead of you, still not beside you. None of them have looked back. This is, you find, entirely fine. You are not looking for acknowledgement. You are not here to be recognized or attended to. You are here in the way that you are always here, present in a place, moving through it, receiving what it offers without demanding more. And what this place is offering, this morning, on this path, is the company of creatures who are doing exactly what they need to do, going exactly where they need to go, and who have decided, or have simply not decided otherwise, to let you walk alongside them for a while. The path widens slightly as it crests a small rise. Before you, where the gates thin for a moment and the sky opens up, there is a view across the tops of the cedar trees. Not spectacular, not panoramic, but intimate. The city below is still in its early gray, its roof lines emerging slowly from the last of the night. Smoke rises from somewhere in the distance, a kitchen perhaps, or a bathhouse beginning its morning work. The sky above it is the pale color of something that is about to become something else. You stop at the crest and breathe. The foxes continue forward without pausing. You watch them cross the open section of path and disappear back into the corridor of gates on the other side. They do not look back. They do not slow. They move the way water moves, with complete commitment to the direction of travel, without hesitation, without anything that could be called doubt. The last one, the smallest, trailing slightly behind the others, stops for just a moment at the edge of the gate corridor. Its tail makes a single slow arc. Then it steps forward into the red shadow of the gates and is gone. You stand at the crest of the rise for a moment longer. The city is waking below you. The sky is brightening in its incremental way. The incense is still present, will be present, you suspect, for as long as you are on this mountain, and the moss on either side of the path is exactly what it is, old and patient, and covered in its own slow time. You breathe out. You follow the path. Chapter 4. A garden that keeps time differently. The upper reaches of the mountain are quieter in a way that is different from the quiet below. Below, the quiet was the quiet of absence, the city not yet arrived, the crowds not yet gathered, the ordinary sounds of human mourning held at a distance by the early hour. It was quiet because the things that make noise had not yet begun. But here, higher up, the quiet is something else. It is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of a particular kind of stillness that seems to generate its own silence, the way certain rooms feel hushed, not because they are empty, but because of what they contain. The path has changed beneath your feet. The wide stone slabs of the lower approach have given way to something narrower, older, flagstones laid with less regularity, their edges rounded by years of water and foot and weather, their surfaces covered in a fine film of moisture that catches what light there is and holds it. You walk carefully, not because the path is dangerous, but because the care feels appropriate. Because this is the kind of ground that asks to be paid attention to. The gates here are different too. They are older. You can tell by the way the lacquer has worn. Not peeling, not damaged, but softened. The red deepened towards something closer to the color of old brick, of dried blood, of earth that has been turned and turned again over many seasons. Some of the posts have moss at their bases, and unlike the moss on the walls below, this moss has not been tended or constrained. It has simply grown and been allowed to grow, and has made of the gate posts something that is no longer entirely wooden and no longer entirely living, but some combination of the two that has its own category. The garden opens before you without announcement. One moment you are in the corridor of gates, the path hemmed on either side, the sky a thin strip above. The next, around a curve that does not seem steep enough to account for the change, you are in a space that breathes. It is not large. That is the first thing. You have perhaps been expecting something grand, something that matches the weight of what you have already walked through, but the garden is intimate, a small clearing, or something close to a clearing. The cedars still present at the edges, still tall, still doing what cedars do. But within their perimeter, the space has organized itself differently, more gently, more slowly. The moss here is extraordinary. You thought you understood moss after the walls of the lower path, but this is another order of thing entirely. It covers the ground in an unbroken surface, not patchy, not varied, but continuous, from the base of the trees at the edges all the way to where the stone begins again at the center of the garden. It is deep. You cannot tell how deep. You are not going to step off the path to test it, but the surface of it has the particular quality of depth, the slight give that thickness provides, the way a good mattress looks different from a thin one even before you lie down, the color in the morning light that has begun to filter properly through the canopy is not one green, but many. There are greens here that you do not have names for. There is the green of deep water seen from above. There is the green of copper that has spent a century in rain. There is the green of the moment just before a storm, when the light changes and everything becomes briefly, startlingly vivid. All of these greens exist simultaneously in this moss, shifting as the light shifts, and the effect is of watching something breathe. You stand at the edge of the path and simply look at it for a moment. The thought arrives without effort. This is what patience looks like. Not the performance of patience, not waiting, not enduring, but patience as a completed state, as something achieved. The moss is not becoming anything. It is not on its way to being something else. It has arrived fully at what it is, and it is resting there with complete contentment. At the center of the garden, there is a pond. It is small. You could walk around it in 30 steps, perhaps fewer, and it is fed by a spring that surfaces at its far edge, the water entering so slowly and so quietly that the only evidence of movement is the faintest trembling of the surface near the stones at the pond's edge. The rest of the water is still, entirely still, still in the way that water becomes still when it has been still for a very long time and has forgotten how to move. The reflection in it is perfect. The cedar trees at the garden's edge, the pale sky above them, the darker shape of a gate visible at the far side of the space, all of it exists again in the pond, inverted and exact, as if the world has a second version of itself that lives just below the surface of still water and comes out when the conditions are right. You walk toward it. The stone path curves around the pond's edge, and the flagstones here are more widely spaced, with the moss growing up between them in cushioned mounds. You step from stone to stone with attention, and between one step and the next, you notice, at the water's edge, just slightly off the path to your right, a fox. It is small, smaller than the ones on the path below, or perhaps it only seems so in the openness of this space. It is sitting at the very edge of the pond, its body perfectly still, its tail wrapped around its feet in the manner of a cat at rest. Its face is turned downward toward the water. It is looking at its own reflection, or perhaps not at its reflection, perhaps at something in the water that has no equivalent above the surface. You find you cannot tell. The fox does not move as you approach. It does not flinch, does not shift its weight, does not acknowledge you in any way. It is simply present at the water's edge, attending to whatever it is attending to, with the kind of complete absorption that makes the rest of the world irrelevant. You sit down on a low flat stone near the path's edge. This too happens without a decision. One moment you are standing, and the next you are sitting, and the stone beneath you is cool and smooth and solid in a way that is deeply reassuring. You sit and you breathe, and you look at the water. The stone lanterns at the garden's perimeter are still lit. This is something you notice gradually, the way you notice things in places like this, not all at once, but in layers, each observation arriving when you are ready for it. The lanterns are small, set at intervals around the garden's edge, their flames visible through the paper panels as soft orange ellipses of light. The morning has arrived now, properly. The sky above the cedars is fully pale, the darkness completely gone, and the lanterns have no practical purpose in this light. But they are burning. Their flames are steady, unhurried, burning in the manner of flames that have been burning since before you arrived, and will continue after you leave, not because anyone has tended them in the last hour, but because this is simply what they do. They keep the garden's particular quality of light intact, a warmth that the morning sky alone would not provide, a small assertion that this space exists in its own time, alongside morning but not entirely subject to it. Some say that in very old gardens, the boundary between what has been made and what has simply grown becomes impossible to locate, that after enough time, the intervention of human hands and the intervention of rain and root and season become indistinguishable, not because the garden has been neglected, but because it has been tended so long and so carefully that the tending itself has become part of what the garden is. The gardener's intention absorbed into the living thing, the way a sound can be absorbed into silence until both are changed. You breathe in. The incense is here too, not as strong as on the path, but present, a thread of it woven through the cooler smell of the water and the green mineral smell of the moss. You breathe it in without thinking about it, the way you breathe in all the good things in a place like this, not effortfully, not with gratitude exactly, but with the simple openness of a body that has remembered for the moment how to receive. The fox at the water's edge has not moved. Its reflection in the pond is as still as it is. Two foxes, one above and one below, mirror images, both attending to the same point of stillness at the center of everything. You look at them both for a while, the real and the reflected, and find that you cannot hold on to the difference. They are both equally present, both equally still, both equally part of whatever this garden is doing, whatever it has been doing for longer than you can imagine. A single cedar needle falls from somewhere above and lands on the surface of the pond. The ring it makes expands outward in perfect circles, passing through the reflections, distorting and reassembling them until the rings reach the mossy edge and disappear. The fox does not react. The lanterns do not flicker. The garden absorbs the small event and returns to its stillness with the ease of something that has absorbed 10,000 small events before this one and will absorb 10,000 more. You feel your shoulders drop. You had not known they were raised, but they drop now, a full, slow release, and with them goes something else. Something that has been with you since before you got on the train this morning, maybe since before you went to sleep last night. Something that had a name, a shape, a familiar weight. It is not gone exactly, but it is somewhere else, very far below, with the city, with the morning, with the things that require it. Here, there is only the water, the moss, the small, still fox, attending to its own reflection, the lanterns burning in daylight because this garden does not negotiate with clocks. You breathe out. Chapter 5. The garden breathes, and you are part of it. You are not sure how long you have been sitting on the stone. Time in this garden does not move the way time moves elsewhere. It does not accumulate. It does not press forward with the particular urgency of minutes that need to become other minutes, of hours that need to justify themselves by containing things. It simply is, present and unhurried, and indifferent to measurement in the most peaceful way imaginable. You have been sitting here for a moment, and you have been sitting here for a long time, and both of these things are true, and neither of them matters. The fox is still at the water's edge, or perhaps it is a different fox. You find you cannot be certain, and the uncertainty does not trouble you. What you notice is that there is a small white shape at the edge of the still water, and that it is doing what it was doing before, attending to the surface, or to something beneath the surface, or to nothing at all in the way that deeply settled things sometimes attend to nothing with complete absorption. Its tail is curled around its feet. Its ears are forward but relaxed, the slight curve of them suggesting something between alertness and sleep. You look at the water. Your own reflection is there, faint, not quite committed, the way reflections are in water that is very still and very deep. You look like someone who has been somewhere for a long time, someone whose edges have softened slightly. You do not look tired. You look the way a stone looks after years of water, not worn down but smoothed, something unnecessary removed. You breathe in. The incense is still there. It will always be there, you think. Not as a belief, not as a conclusion, just as a simple recognition. This mountain has been breathing incense for longer than any single thread of smoke, longer than any individual offering. The smell is in the wood of the gates. and the fiber of the moss and the cold mineral surface of the stones, and it rises from all of these things slowly and continuously, the way warmth rises from earth that has held the sun. It is not something that is happening, it is something that is. The lanterns at the garden's edge have not changed. Their flames move in the absolutely minimal way of flames that are perfectly sheltered, not still, because fire is never still, but close. A breathing, a very slow breathing, in and out. The orange light expanding and contracting by degrees so small, they register not in the eye, but somewhere beneath the eye, in the part of you that responds to rhythms below the threshold of conscious attention. You watch one of them without watching it. Your gaze rests on it the way your gaze rests on things when you are very close to sleep. Not focused, not analyzing, simply receiving. The cedars at the garden's edge move slightly. There is something now, not wind exactly, but the suggestion of air becoming aware of itself. The upper branches of the tallest trees make a sound that is almost not a sound, a soft collective sighing, each needle moving against its neighbor in a whisper so quiet it is more texture than noise. You feel it slightly on your face, a coolness, not cold, the particular temperature of air that has come down from somewhere higher and older and has not yet been changed by the warmth of the day. The moss responds. You can see it, or perhaps you only imagine you can see it, but the difference seems unimportant. The surface of the moss shifting almost imperceptibly as the air moves across it. Each small stem bending its fraction of a degree and returning. The green surface of the garden rippling in a way that is nothing like the rippling of water and everything like it. Slow, even, continuous. You feel your breathing slow to match it. This is not something you do. It is something that happens. The way your breathing has always, without your knowledge or consent, been negotiating with the rhythms around it. The pace of a room, the pace of a conversation, the pace of rain. Your body is a good listener when you are not interfering. And right now you are not interfering. You are simply here, on this cool flat stone, in this garden that keeps its own time, and your breathing has found the rhythm of the moss, and the rhythm of the lantern flames, and the rhythm of whatever the fox at the water's edge is doing. In and out, in and out. The bells come again from somewhere above, the same bells you heard on the path, unhurried, each note complete in itself. They are further away now, or lower, or simply softer. You cannot tell direction from them. They arrive from the air itself, it seems, the way certain sounds do in certain places. Not emitted from a point, but present throughout the space, the way the incense is present throughout the space, diffused and whole. One bell, a long pause in which the sound continues, fading so slowly it seems to take the silence with it as it goes, leaving a deeper quiet behind. Another bell. You close your eyes. The garden does not disappear when you close your eyes. It becomes something else. A garden made of what your other senses have gathered. The coolness of the stone beneath you, the smell of the moss and the incense, and the water and the cedar, the sound of the upper branches, which is barely a sound, the warmth of the lantern light, which you can feel at the edge of your face as the faintest suggestion of heat. The garden is still entirely present. It has simply changed its way of being present, as things do when you stop looking at them. You are aware, dimly, of the foxes. Not visually. Your eyes are still closed, but as a presence, a quality of the air to your left perhaps, and somewhere ahead of you, and at the water's edge where the small one has been sitting. They are not doing anything that you need to know about. They are simply here, as they have been here, doing what they do with the same seamless ease with which the moss grows and the lanterns burn and the water holds its reflections. You are one of several things present in this garden, no more remarkable than the others, no less. This is, you find, exactly the right amount. The light behind your closed eyelids has changed, warmer, more golden, the proper morning arriving at last. You do not open your eyes to confirm it. You feel it on your skin, the first real warmth of the day, reaching over the tops of the cedars and finding you where you sit. It is not strong. It is the gentle preliminary warmth of a sun that is just beginning to mean it, and it moves across the garden the way warmth always moves, slowly, evenly, without preference. The moss will drink it in. The stones will hold it. The water will receive it and add it to the reflection, and the reflection will become something slightly different, morning in a garden, rather than the darkness before morning, and both of them true versions of the same place. Your hands are in your lap. You notice them the way you sometimes notice your hands in moments of deep quiet, as if from a slight distance, as if they belong to a body that is resting very thoroughly. They are still, not tense, not consciously relaxed, but simply still, the way hands become when the mind that usually occupies them has gone somewhere quieter. The incense comes and goes. The branches breathe. The bells, if there are bells, are too far away now to be certain of. They might be bells. They might be the sound that silence makes in a place that has been this quiet for this long. A kind of resonance, the stone and the wood and the water all vibrating at a frequency below the level of sound, something you feel rather than hear, something that hums in the spaces between things. The fox at the water's edge has become part of the water's edge. You could not say exactly when this happened. At some point, the boundary between the small white shape and the moss and the stone and the still surface of the pond became too subtle to trace. And now the whole edge of the water is simply what it is: moss, stone, reflection, presence. And all of these things are continuous with each other and with the garden and with the morning that has settled over everything, like the most patient, most even-handed thing in the world. You are part of this too, not dramatically, not as a realization that arrives with weight or consequence, just as a fact. The warmth on your face, the cool of the stone beneath you, the moss that is the same color inside your closed eyes as it is outside them, the breathing that has long since stopped being something you are doing and becomes something that is simply happening in you, in the branches, in the slow pulse of flames that have been burning since before you arrived. The mountain is here. The gates are here, running up its slopes in their long vermilion lines, the lacquer deepening as the morning light finds them, the moss at their bases continuing its patient work. Somewhere below, the city is waking. The first trains, the first voices, the first decisions of the day beginning their long accumulation. But that is very far below, and between you and all of that is the garden and the water and the smell of cedar and incense and wet stone and the slow green breathing of the moss. You do not need to go anywhere. You do not need to remember anything. The lanterns are burning. The water is still. The morning moves across the garden in its golden, unhurried way, and you are here, and the stone beneath you is cool and solid. and the air on your face is the air of a mountain that has been here for longer than memory and will be here after memory has finished with everything it needs to do. Breathe in the moss, the incense, the soft sound of cedar needles finding each other in a wind too gentle to be called wind. Breathe out. The reflection in the water is perfect and still. Somewhere in the garden, at the edge of things, a presence moves, unhurried, white, following a path that has nothing to do with time, and then it is gone. Not gone, simply elsewhere, the way all things in this garden are simply elsewhere when they are not here, resting in the same unhurried continuity that holds the lantern flames and the moss and the water and the morning light and you, still here, breathing.